Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap Polaris 20, the squads event, Team USA versus Team Brazil, and we are going to recap Midwest Finisher 7. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Josh.
How you doing, Josh?
Good.
Good to have you back.
Hi.
Let's see. Before we get into the recaps, let's move into a little bit of news. We are quickly approaching ADCC. We're getting kind of the final announcements for who's going to be in all the divisions. Cyborg got announced for plus 99. It'd be really interesting to see how he goes in that division. I think we have now 4 champions in that division, which is wild. I think it's Cyborg's 7th appearance at ADCC, and there are 4. We have Penna, we have Gordon, we have Cyborg, we have, I think, Vinny's in plus 99. Is he a former champion or former silver medalist? I never can remember.
I want to
think
say
so. And then I'm obviously forgetting someone else in there because Keinen's now moved down. Nick Rodriguez is a silver medalist, but like plus 99 is very quickly becoming I wouldn't say a toss-up division with Gordon there, but definitely like an interesting division.
Gordon,
probably.
who's going to win?
Probably Gordon. So we're just kind of finishing and rounding out ADCC, and Vegas is getting pretty wild that week. The Canelo fight versus Triple G is also that weekend. The UFC is also in town that weekend. Something else is in town as well. So it's
Football.
Oh yeah, the Vegas football team.
Las Vegas Raiders.
That team, Josh.
I know that, and I don't even watch
I don't
football.
know anything about ball sports, so that's why I do a jiu-jitsu podcast. So I don't have any other news this
Ball
week.
sports.
I don't know anything, man. Mouth guard, headgear, I got you. Any other sport, like hand-eye coordination, like not your guy. So that's all I got for news. Football. Do you have any other news this week? It was really kind of a quiet week for news overall.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about anything important.
Yeah,
like in the group chat either.
As probably was something major happened. We were just like we
were all pretty focused on like the people doing DC Open.
We had a bunch of teammates competing this weekend at DC Open and PBJJF, which is another local event that is essentially the IBJJF, but like a little.
But PBJJF.
But PBJJF. So that was this weekend. Very fun to have all the teammates out there doing that. So let's move into the recap, Josh. What do you want to start with? You want to start with Midwest Finishers, or you want to start with Polaris?
Let's go with Finishers, because it'll be easier.
So, yeah, both these events were very, very long. Midwest Finishers ran 2 events. They ran a women's 125-pound bracket, and they ran a men's 155-pound bracket. Do you want to run through one of them first, or you want to do them at the same time?
Let's just jam it all in there.
Let's do one. Let's do one at a time. I was say ask you that. I'm like, this is the correct answer.
Yeah,
here.
I'm like the correct answer is don't ask Josh.
Women or men's?
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Women's first.
Let's kick it off the women's bracket. Really fun bracket overall. We had a finals match basically between Alex Nguyen and Trinity Pun. Trinity Pun is the 135-pound champion. Is that correct? For finishers? I think so. Overall, like a ton of submissions. We saw a lot of really, really active submissions throughout the tournament. This was a 16-person tournament.
14.
Yeah, because there's 2 buys here. As I, again, have the TV positioned behind me. If you don't follow the Grappling around on social media, you can see our new podcast setup that we have. Still have not moved the televisions where they're supposed to go yet, as I talk about it every week. We'll get there eventually.
You should have one that mirrors onto another one that's behind here.
And that's
this is what we're looking at too, guys. And that way you can do this.
That may be what I'm thinking about a couple different other options.
This with that's the background on the television screen.
I thought about it, but it glares. So there's a lot of reasons. But moving on, what do you want to run through Trinity's run, or do you want to run through select matches here in the women's division? Do you have anything you kind of want to do?
I'm up for whatever,
A couple of standout matches we had. We had Chrissy. I'm trying to find where she is. Chrissy Briggs, 2 in a row. Darce and then another Darce, like really, really quickly. Her first match, she has
Darby Jones.
Really, really nice Darce off of like a single leg attempt that pretty much immediately folded into a Darce. Got a real quick Darce finish off of that after locking the hands. Really great camera angle on the side. It was nice to see her be able to kind of make the angle to the side and then look to step over with that Darce, like right off of the single leg. We're seeing, again, especially in like the finisher style events, we're seeing a lot more submission chaining, and it's kind of been a thing we're seeing.
We were just talking about it at the gym, where it was just like especially right leading up into ADCC season, like everything is so no-gi focused and people are just doing things. And I heard something, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I just literally heard it, but I heard that the gym that Alex trains at, Standard, is only like no-gi now anyway.
That's what David told. David Brennan, the guy that trains with us, now trains there, told us, like, they do no-gi.
Oh, okay.
And I went like, what? Only no-gi? He's like, yeah, come up on Thursday. I was like, okay.
So, well, there you go. So it's backed up that is actually what they do. So you get to see, and kind of like create all these different positional things. I mean, it's the same thing with the gi where it's like you can create guards and other things like that. But when your focus is so heavy on one specific thing, it's like you just see more opportunity to start doing things. And that's talking about Alex. This isn't talking about Chris, even though I've jumped around. That's how my brain works. But when you do a whole lot more no-gi, you start just seeing more things that open themselves up instead of just like, oh, okay, I'm just training jiu-jitsu in general.
Right, I'm not doing submission grappling. I'm doing like specifically no-gi. Here are my options for no-gi, and it's there's less crossover. It is interesting. The past couple of years, we've seen a lot more, kind of as a tangent here, a lot more gyms, and really the professional scene has shifted almost entirely into no-gi. Like when we first started the show back in 2017, it was gi, no-gi. It was a pretty solid 50-50 mix. Maybe certain, during you had ADCC season or you have no-gi season and you had kind of gi season. And that was sort of into 2018, even into kind of 2019, that was sort of talked about. Nowadays, for the professional side, it's no-gi all the time. Like I can't remember the last bracketed gi event that we did that wasn't, I think EUG is
BJJ Bet.
BJJ Bet, yeah. And then EUG, but there's like only a handful of gi events that we end up covering now.
It's a shift at the right time, which is fine. Like, great. I also talked about it at the gym earlier. It was like, I like gi more than no gi. Like, it's more fascinating to me. But everybody has their own thing, and like even our gym has had a big shift where a lot of people just want to do no gi, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Like training is training to me. Do I want to train in the gi more? Yes, but training is training. Oh, we're doing no-gi today? All right.
Yeah. Cool. Honestly, I bring both nowadays. I'm just like, what are we doing? Okay.
I have a rash guard. I can wear my gi pants. It doesn't matter.
So moving on. Again, Chrissy had two really great subs, kind of back to back. I like seeing competitors. We're seeing Chrissy kind of more and more. We saw her in the main event on the co-main or something like that on Fury. I forget who she was against. We're seeing her again more and more. It is nice to see her in and get two kind of really quick submissions in the earlier rounds by the same technique. I like seeing someone lean into a technique, like much like we've seen the Vertolos really lean into the Darce and like kind of make that the staple
choke
or the buggy choke that we see again. Let's talk about that.
Look at Gordon though. But Gordon, like, what do you know Gordon for mostly? Heel hooks.
Yep.
And rear naked chokes. Like that's it. If you guys get the chance, watch Future Kimono's first interview with him because they're doing like a countdown to ADCC, and they did like a 10-minute video or something, 10 or 15-minute video with him. It's pretty interesting, just like getting his thoughts and everything on leading up to ADCC.
I haven't seen that yet. Where's YouTube?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. That'll be interesting. He's actually like
he's very well spoken.
For how you ever think about Gordon, that dude has given me two of the best interviews I've ever done.
Dude,
by far.
He's probably one of the best trolls in general. Like definitely. I want to say a lot of what he says is just like pure shenanigans.
We're good. I just clicked a button accidentally.
Okay. I want to say a lot of the stuff he just says is just to say it to piss people off.
Yeah.
But like anything when it comes to jiu-jitsu, it's like I'll listen to you on that because you know what you're talking about.
He's every time I've interviewed him post-fight, he's always given me actually interviewed him at ADCC and after Bo Nickel, after that match at Third Coast. Super insightful with like game planning and talking about the techniques and why he did something and the training and leading up. It's like always been very, very insightful to hear him. So I'll definitely catch that interview. But we just talked about the buggy choke. Trinity pun, first round, hits a buggy choke. And
I can't even do one of those.
we
you
were
were
at the
there.
gym Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking about we have a younger teammate who is very, very flexible, has a good body style for it, and was like we were going through a couple of different kind of scenarios where when he's working a buggy choke, and I don't want to be that old crotchety guy in the gym that's like, oh, you shouldn't do it. I'm like, hey man, if it works for you, like here's how to tighten it up, here's where you should go and do it. And then Josh, you were trying to show something, and you're like, can I even do it? And you put your leg, you're like, I can't do this, man.
Fuck that. I'll go to sleep. Like I won't tap to that. Fuck that move.
So we had Trinity Pun again using her kind of flexibility and her length to get and finish the buggy choke. We are starting to see buggy chokes finished frequently. I think it's really interesting because you and I both saw this probably back in 2014, 2015. That move kind of for probably like 6 months kind of came to prominence. You saw a lot of people like throwing it and spamming it. I forget what kind of kicked that off. And then it just went away functionally for a couple years.
Instagram or something, and like a few random people like hit it.
Yeah, and there was a guy that was who wanted to be the first guy in MMA to hit it. I remember seeing that, and then like it kind of like went away,
just vanished,
and then all of the sudden, it has come to prominence, and we're seeing a lot of high level. Like we saw Hunter Colvin use it. We see the Rotolos use it. Sorry, not, we saw J-Rod use it on Hunter Colvin in the finals of trials. We saw Trinity Pun here using it in her first round. We're seeing like it is now a technique that is, if you have the body style for it, a viable option from bottom side at the higher middle, like A-tier levels of competition.
It works at the highest level. You watched the Rotolos do it.
Wild.
It has worked. You watched it at ADCC trials. It worked. People are doing it.
It's
working.
Because that was a move. I just love that, like, that was a move when I was training that was, like, dismissed as, like, a me. I was like, it's not going to. I think even, like,
you know what else is, like, a move? When you body triangle somebody and you, like, spine lock them by just grabbing their head. And,
we saw that this weekend with Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, I used to do that at like white belt, and everybody in the gym was like, "Stop fucking doing that. We hate you."
Doesn't work, and now we're seeing it again. I like this event. Kind of reminded me that things come back around, and it is very funny to see the buggy choke. Like really, kind of like it's not just being used by the Rotolos and like,
or it's not just like a 10th planet thing.
Mm-hmm. We're seeing it. You go to side control, it is now something that you have to defend because people are working it, and just. Very interesting thing to consider.
If somebody tries to do that shit to you, crush their throat.
Yeah, you got to put the hand on the front. That's something we saw here is when Trinity went for it. I forget what round.
Emily Nichols.
Emily Nichols had the hand underneath and tried to step over it. And I was curious. I didn't know if potentially Nichols had put her hand on the face and on the forearm, if she would have been able to frame, or if potentially she would have been able to pass out of the buggy choke in the direction she was going. It was just interesting. And again, it's a technique that we didn't see as frequently for years and years and years. I am now curious. I'm going to have to learn as kind of a watcher and as a commentator, like, what are the options they have for buggy choke? We saw a double buggy choke like a couple months ago. Like, what?
There's been several of them.
There's been several, but like there was a high profile one on one of the 10th Planet qualifiers. But
I think it happened at one of the trials too.
Okay, I mean, again, it's something we're seeing, and it is interesting now. Have to relearn the technique to go like, okay, what should they be doing? Where their hand position? What are their counter options? Like, how do they avoid it?
Yeah, I don't know. We've been talking about that, but let's talk about the final of that bracket with Alex Nguyen and Trinity Pun going at it.
Is this a rematch? I think this is a rematch, but commentary didn't mention it. I don't think mentioned it as a rematch, but it would surprise me if this was not a rematch at this point. Does
Alex have a BJJ Heroes page?
I don't know. I think she's a brand new black belt.
No, she's had it for a little bit now.
Who was I thinking of then?
I don't know.
I could be
wrong. I mean, that would be a way to figure it out. But it was really cool. There was one point where you see like this offset triangle about to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, it does happen.
From Trinity on the bottom.
From Trinity on the bottom. But the thing is, like, there's too much space. Alex put her hand in there at one point, and Trinity would have had to, like, punch her own arm in to help cut off the blood flow.
Yeah.
So it was more like a... Not like a stalling position.
It was a head crush almost. It was like you're trying to hold the head in position to prevent the pass.
Yeah.
And we watched it again before we recorded here, and we were talking about basically Trinity grabbed, it kind of looked like a variation of a Nogi canto choke.
Sort of.
But there were no arms in, and we were kind of, whenever we have seen this finished, it's always finished when someone, instead of having their arm looped over top to grab the leg, you have to reach under your
Like
own leg and through to almost like do a no-arm triangle with it. And it was interesting. Alex kind of like went forward a little bit, locked the legs up, locked the arms up, and sort of tried to squeeze.
Trinity.
Yeah, sorry, Trinity on Alex, but was never able to really get the pressure and the closure into the choke to make a no-arm variation of the choke work. And Alex did a great job kind of late in the match, off her back, threw up a pretty tight armbar.
She came off of it. I thought she transitioned off of it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. She did.
She transitioned off of that and had like a really tight one, and it was like, ooh, it might be close, and then Trinity started to come up, and then it was finished.
Yeah.
That's why it would seem like it was off of her back.
Yeah.
Solid armbar, solid work from Alex. Like, she's really good. She's been really good for a really long time.
Yeah.
Again, since she's local, I put that in quotes. She used to come to our gym a lot, training with people that used to train there. I've seen her at like a billion tournaments, competing there, reffing there. She knows her shit. She's really good. Like, it's all
awesome
just like,
to see her taking the belt to 25 for
yes,
finishers.
awesome. But like, also just going back and like, oh, what did she do? Oh yeah, she was in that tournament with Maisa Bastos and Grace Gundrum and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, she's just like doing all of this stuff just to make herself that much better.
Yeah.
So it's always cool seeing all the women come through, and like you see all these standout grapplers coming out. So that was really cool watching.
Yeah. Awesome. Really very, very fun tournament. Again, not a ton of, I liked this bracket. We didn't see a ton of overtime either.
Thank goodness.
Josh and I aren't a huge fan of overtime on the show.
We used to love it.
We used to tolerate it.
We used to like it.
We used
there
to
we go.
tolerate it. And then it got gamed a bit. But I like that we didn't see very many matches in either bracket go to overtime. Like, a lot of people came out. Again, 10-minute finishers did something that I kind of liked. Like, they were 10-minute matches. And you got enough time to work. And also they were aggressively pushing. All the competitors kind of knew to aggressively push the action.
You want
and
that
that
submission
works.
anyway.
Yeah, and but I appreciate that. So let's move on to the men's 155-pound bracket. This was a fun fucking bracket. I enjoyed the shit out of this. Very fun. Where do you want to start with this? So this finals match might have been Keiran Kerchak versus Deandre Cobre, had Keiran not got injured. Keiran got injured in his second round match versus John Lyons. He cracked a rib. I didn't really see how it happened, but the commentary talked about the 3 hour and 8 minute mark. They kind of mentioned that it looks like Keiran's out and he's some sort of injury. Looks like a rib injury. Keiran posted later on Instagram, I think, that it was, we went to basically him in front of the ER with he's like, yep, it's broken. And I was like, that sucks, because Kieran's a really fun guy to watch.
What level of break are we talking here? Is it like broken bad, or is it like cracked, or what? I mean, rib injuries suck.
Yeah, I got a rib injury this weekend as well. They're not
not
great,
fun.
Josh.
They're not fun.
Second one in 8 years or 9 years.
So hopefully that heals up. But again, we could have had a completely different finals match had that not happened.
Keiran takes out Fabian Ramirez. Fabian Ramirez was on Who's Next as well. He was in that opening house. I don't think he makes it into the house in the initial one. The guy that was with Sailor Hat.
Yes, yeah. I know who we're talking about.
He beats Fabian Ramirez in the first round. I forget exactly what he submitted him with. It was an outside ankle lock from a false rape entry. And it was a really nice entry. Entry we saw him use at West Coast trials. Really nice sit through. Comes over and finishes almost like the leg lock that Craig Jones finished on Boogie at Quintet. Kind of like that.
Okay, yeah.
Where it's like he's outside and he's on an outside angle on the leg. It was a straight ankle lock, but it was like very, very reminiscent of that finish where the knees turned sideways, kind of. Finished that on Ramirez and then moves on, faces John Lyons. John Lyons submits him with, I think it was an armbar? I don't recall. Again, Josh and I watched, I think Midwest Finishers was about 4 hours long and Polaris was about 4 hours long. And back to back, and we don't have a result set for Midwest Finishers, so this is just
trying to pull it off the top of my head there.
So Keiran finishes Lyons. Keiran has to drop out with an injury. And then so we have John Lyons versus Jordan Holy. Jordan Holy is able to finish Lyons and moves on to the finals versus Deandre Cobre. Holy looked really good again. We've seen Holy been making consistent improvements to his top game and his bottom game. Really, really quick entries into the leg locks. I think his first or second match was
he's always
really quick.
been that way though. Like he's always just like jumping on it. The thing with that, like the difference between his first 2 matches and the finals match were like significant.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
you watched, and this happened a lot in Polaris as well, where it's just like you see one of the people where if it's not a submission only thing, it's like you clearly see who won that match.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when it's submission only, it doesn't really matter.
You have to submit.
So it's just like, okay, how are we going to figure this out? Or it goes to overtime, and then
Right.
But
I think Holy has a really good style for the EBI style events. That's why we've seen him kind of do so well. Is because he comes out super aggressive and he goes guns blazing. And a lot of times that works out in his favor. He can get to the ankle locks, he can get to the heel hooks, he can get to the legs. And more recently, we've seen him be getting to the mount, be getting to the back. And I think over the past 3 or 4 years of covering him, we've seen him kind of make those improvements, and that really paid dividends through this bracket, especially in his finals match versus Deandre Cobre. Deandre Cobre had a really fun run up into this bracket. He looked really good. He had another really, really quick leg lock entry, I think in his first or second match. And then we had a match with Max Hansen, who also was just looking phenomenal, getting a couple rear naked chokes early and just super dominant performance. Was Max also on the qualifier for Who's Next? I could be mixing him up with someone. He's a guy we've just recently started covering kind of more frequently.
I can't remember.
And
like that, I don't remember the first episode at all.
Yeah, it all blends
it's
together.
It's already
Josh.
been weeks.
Mm-hmm. But man, Max is a guy we just started kind of recently covering more, and he really impressed me here just with the level of positional control he had in his first 2 matches. Was impressive. The way he controlled Victor and the way he controlled David Garcia, kind of pathing to the finish, getting to the back, finishing. I think he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the 55 division, moving forward. His match with Deandre was a lot of fun as well. Deandre really had to slow him down, put pressure, pace on him in order to be able to get through him.
So that leads again back to another thing talking about Polaris is take someone like Mika Galval, and that's what he's really good at, is slowing down the action to what pace he wants to be at until it's time to go, and then he just goes.
Yeah.
And you're lulled into this false sense of security,
or even the false sense of timing.
Yeah,
he's
even that.
A lot of guys.
Just watching a lot of that stuff, it's like
at the high level, they can vary their timing. They can, and Nicky Rod talks about doing this a lot too. It's like he puts a pace on you, and then he varies that pace, so you're not expecting him to change pace, and then you can never get his timing right to get through him or to ever be able to deal with him. Is really what sort of he does, and it's interesting, kind of over the years doing this, having more and more guys kind of talk about that as a strategy of off timing and changing timing, and not something you hear in other combat sports. But it's interesting to see BJJ guys kind of more and more frequently talk about that as a strategy in a way that I didn't hear as much in the past.
Again, I think it's easier to do in no gi than it would be to do it in the gi, because gi you can just
I can grab a
put
grip
everything to a crawl,
and I can
if
slow
I
everything down if I really want to.
And you have to play at that pace, and somebody's not going to explode the pace off of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about kind of the shift that we talked about earlier from the gi into no gi.
It's become more of a legitimate sport, to where for years everybody's like, "Oh, put jiu-jitsu in the Olympics." It's like, do not put jiu-jitsu in the Olympics.
Do not do that.
Call it submission grappling and make it
call it submission grappling and do it every 2 years and call it ADCC, and we're good.
I mean, well, yeah, that too.
That's all I want, Josh. Well, we already have that.
If you want to put it in the Olympics,
don't do
give
it.
him a pair of shorts and a rash guard and call it a day, and let him just try to find the best amalgamation of all rules and do that.
So let's talk about the finals match before we get too off tangent here in a classic Maine and Josh show.
Yep.
Jordan Holy takes on Deandre Cobre.
It goes to overtime.
It does.
But Deandre, in my personal opinion, was just like was on his front foot the whole time. He had he was in control in my eyes. He was in control the entire match.
Yeah, it was definitely close in sections.
Yes.
And I was really impressed with, again, they both played from the bottom. They both played from the top. They both did, like, they both tried to pass and impose a positional game when needed. And they weren't doing the thing that was so frequent in these EBI style tournaments a couple years ago, which is like both guys fall for the legs and they pummel legs for 10 minutes or 8 of the 10 minutes, and then that's it, and that's the match. I really appreciate that in the finals now we're seeing guys like showcasing top game and bottom game. Like they want to have the fight where they want to have it, but they're also willing to have the fight wherever it is taking place to showcase, like, yeah, I'm not just like a good leg locker. I'm not just a guy that have to pass your guard. I'm not just a guy that's going to sit in north-south. Like, I really appreciate that because, again, we've seen enough matches where we know that is partially a rules thing, but that is in a huge way a grappler thing. Like, you have to have two guys that are willing to kind of showcase their talents to have a good finals match like this. And I appreciate that we had Deandre and Jordan here to do that, because we've had a lot of finals matches versus two guys of similar level where they just decide, I'm only going to play this one thing and only show this one facet of my game that I'm comfortable in. And then it goes to overtime and you're like, cool, I didn't see anything. It was nice to see Jordan like play a defensive game and not just only be willing to engage in the area that he wanted to. And that's sort of, I think, some of the improvements we've seen from Holy's game in the last couple of years is the willingness to really fight you from anywhere and stop the guard pass and get underneath you and use that as a tool to get on top and then work his pass. It's nice to see. I think, again, goes to a decision. Cobre probably takes this one, but that's not the finisher's format.
Overtime.
You go into overtime. They go, I think it was 3 overtimes. Holy's able to take it in overtime. It's standard overtime. They trade back and forth. No subs. And then Holy takes it. Holy is now the 155-pound champion of Midwest finishers. Absolutely would love to see him defend that. It is a little odd with kind of how Midwest finishers, not how Midwest finishers runs, but a lot of these tournaments, because it's so, there is such a couple of months between events. It is a year or more before we see them run back a 155-pound tournament. I would like to see, I don't know if this was this the qualifier for Zapatero? Do you remember? I think this might have been might have been the qualifier for Zapatero. I do like seeing that. If we're not immediately, in the next 6 months, gonna see them run another 155-pound tournament or super fight, I like that it builds kind of a league structure where it's like, cool, then Holy wins this, he goes on as an entrance to this tournament, and it builds a bigger league, because we're probably not going to see Holy defend the finisher's title for some time now.
Well, I don't think anything is really going to go on in the next few months anyway, just because of what's coming up.
ADCC.
So at a certain point, like, the people that are doing ADCC are not going to do anything else.
No, and we got 2 months left.
July,
realistically.
August.
So we're going to see, I think, a big halt. I think in 2 weeks we have who's number 1. And that is Gordon Ryan, that's Pedro Marino. I think that is the last big Nogi event that we're going to have.
No. Because Gordon's doing Pedro Marino, and then he's doing...
Penna.
Yeah.
Is Penna before?
Before ADCC. I thought it was June, July.
Oh, is it really?
I think so.
I actually, because I didn't, I
don't know if that got canceled or not. If
that is a thing that is just that is when I have a specific date, then I'm going to be like, yes, I'm excited for it. And they've talked about they're in like a neutral country, or they wire the money. I don't know what's going on with that match. When it is announced and it is final and we have a date and a streaming platform for it, we will talk about it, and I will get hype to talk about the only dude that's beat Gordon twice at black belt and what the rematch is going to look like, because I think it'll actually, I genuinely am excited about that rematch, because it is one of the 3 matches that I really want to see, maybe 3 or 4 matches I really want to see Gordon in, so I'll be excited about it. But until then, until it is upon us, we've talked about it for years. I don't really want to beat that dead horse. We'll see that. But Pedro Marino is in 2 weeks. That is the final. Do we know if Spriggs and Craig Jones are gonna fight each other on that? Do we know yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because I know that's kind of a big sticking point between Craig and Tim on the show for who's next. I think the finals also airs in 2 weeks, as well.
Yeah. That's
alongside
happening
with
on that who's
Yeah.
next on that who's number one card.
So that will be a lot of fun. Go back and watch the first match between those two guys on Grappling Industries. We have a little highlight up on our page, actually. I got some permission to use that footage probably 3 or 4 years ago when that first match initially happened with some commentary from Emil and I. And it's kind of neat. So you can find that there, but go back and watch the match. I'm curious to see if the dynamics of that match look different, but I think that'll be the last time that we see ADCC guys before like ADCC.
Yeah.
So we're gonna run low on no-gi
Shit to
tournaments
talk
for a
about.
little bit. So that was Middas Finishers. A lot of fun. Go back and watch it on Flow. It's the first time that they've been on Flow. I really would prefer to not have a Little Caesars pizza ad during both finals matches, less than 10 minutes apart.
It's
unforgivable.
Two Little Caesars commercials in the men's finals match.
And one in the women's finals match during the finishing sequence.
I pay $150 a year to watch this stuff. Why am I seeing Little Caesars commercials?
Yeah.
And I'll bring it up every single time it happens. Why? Because it's fucking stupid.
Yeah. No other organization, no other sport runs a giant. It's about 80+%
Run
of
your
the,
fucking commercials in between matches.
Yeah. It's unforgivable to
When
run
you
them
make the
during
commercial
finals matches.
bigger than the screen
Yeah.
that you're watching the match on, there's an issue.
Yeah. And it's
Fuck
not bigger.
Little Caesars, okay?
Yeah.
Fuck them.
It's
I'll eat your
80% of the
pizza,
screen.
but fuck them.
It's 80% of the screen during the broadcast during a finals match, like unforgivable. So, other than that, moving on, let's talk about Polaris 20, the squads. This was Team USA versus Team Brazil. So the squads format is a little different. It's not really like quintet.
It's quintet, but like
It's 2-hour
constant.
periods. It's kind of like a soccer game, sort of with like
you don't
running.
know ball sports.
I don't know anything about ball sports, but I know it's a long time. I know it's
It's
two.
It's 2 1 hour like halves,
Yes.
and you just keep going. You go through everybody, right, until everybody's done, and then you cycle through them again until an hour is over.
But it's not in order.
You just pick whoever.
You can do it in like a random order, and so it's.
You can also sub people out when you take timeouts. If they won.
You have 2 timeouts you can use.
2 timeouts per half.
It's the format is a little complicated. We've seen them run it. I think this is the 3rd time that they've run the squads format.
Yeah, because USA won twice.
I think so. I could be wrong.
I want to say they did.
Okay.
And if not, then USA won once, and then they were coming to defend, and they lost. They lost this time.
But it was also a different team then too, so it's
Sort of.
The-
There
the
were
form-
some people.
the format
Anyway,
is interesting. We can talk about the format. It's essentially if after a 5-minute match, and that's what the rounds are, you select a team member from either above 95 kilogram or under 95 kilograms or under 75 kilograms, and then
they
there's
grapple.
Yeah,
And
there's
then
some
if you get a
points.
submission, you get a point,
Or
unless
3
there's
points.
a size disparity, where
Yeah.
the 95 kilo guy gets submitted, and then you get 3 points if a under 75 guy submits the under 95 pound.
Yeah.
You see how like complicated this is.
It gets a little complicated. If there's a draw, essentially both guys are eliminated.
quote unquote eliminated. They're
There's-
not allowed to go until everybody is cycled through.
Yes. And then, but if somebody doesn't, but you can also, you can sub people. The format is a bit complicated. You can read the full rule set on the Polaris website. They do explain it during the broadcast. It is somewhat like quintet because there's a lot of draws.
But it is also kind of lame because none of these matches matter unless there's a submission.
And that's sort of the problem with the format.
And there's only 5 minutes.
Yeah, so it's a little short.
They talked about it on commentary where they would like to see varying times, like maybe even 6 minutes or up to 8 minutes, which is fine. But again, if nothing is happening, and here's the thing, in 5 minutes, it's kind of difficult to call like stalling or anything like that.
You see it happen a couple times during the event.
A little bit where they were like, come on, you got to fight. But that was
Right.
really about it. And the timer consistently runs.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, it's a 5-minute match, but they stop every time they stop them. No, it just keeps running.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily always get 5 minutes worth of action either. And this leads you to trying to figure out the rules from the first half to the second half. And going into it, like everybody on the Brazil team was like, hey, we wrestle. And they were a wrestling. Like, they were coming in just like heavy collar ties, just trying to blow into people, they were wrestling the first half. And then they were like, there's no point to this because we don't get points.
Because there's no points. And there's no points for anything. You can
see the game change from the first half to the second half.
So it's interesting to talk about, too, because a lot of these matches are interesting, but you're you
get abbreviated matches.
Yeah. They don't work as super fights because your goal is not to, your goal is only to submit. So they're not playing as much of a positional game, but your goal can also be to just get that guy out of the rotation until the next time. But it's an interesting format. It's kind of hard to pin down exactly what the goals are.
The goal is submission.
Right, but I'm saying the goal is sometimes not get submitted too. And
sometimes,
that's
just like
the
hold out and get that
only
guy.
goal.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes really hard to tell, as a viewer, to figure out in 5 minutes what that guy's goals are to get on board with being able to be engaged with the match while I'm watching it. And I struggled that for this particular event. I struggled a lot with that of figuring out, okay, Gio Martinez, is he trying to just stave off his top player, or is he trying to enter for a leg, or he's throwing for a guillotine? I didn't really know what his goal was into the match versus Michael Gavao. You knew what he was going to do. His goal was to go and run through subs.
Everybody on the Brazilian team at one point or another just about tried to get the back.
Yeah.
Except for Keiran Kerchak.
Mm-hmm.
But
so let's
start.
Let's run through the matches because there's a lot of matches to run through. We're going to skip through a lot of them because there's just a lot of matches.
There's 3 submissions in the 2 rounds.
So first round we had Luis. You want to do the names because I got to.
Luis Paulo versus Nathan Orchard. Draw. Luis Paulo was in charge of that match pretty much the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Igor Tanabe versus Hunter Colvin. Draw.
Yep.
It's a lot of trying to attack the legs, back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Tanabe kept trying to barbolo.
Yes.
And if Colvin was just
that.
No, I'm not going to let you barbolo me.
But then there was also still a lot of takedowns attempted by the Brazilian team, which was oh, okay, they're all going to play top. Cool. Didn't necessarily work out. Marcelo Fausto versus Gio Martinez. Draw. Again, all of these guys, even if you don't know Fausto, I didn't really know a whole lot about him. Very impressed watching what he did during that match.
Yeah.
The 2 team captains met next. Isaki Bahens versus Richie Martinez. Draw.
Yep. Bahens heavy again.
Heavy pushing in.
It is a Gio Martinez. It's a Boogie Martinez match where Boogie is trying to play from the bottom and trying to go plata you or turn you over for an arm lock or something out of the back end with his flexibility.
You can go through the episodes and hear how critical, especially I am, but sometimes the rest of the hosts as well, of Richie Martinez's lack of side control escapes, right?
The one quintet in particular.
Yes. So Bahens got by, and I was like, here we go. Richie Martinez was out. I'm out. And I was like, oh, awesome. That's something that I saw where it was a huge change where he wasn't just so comfortable with just being there.
Or trying to bridge
jailbreak.
Over. Yeah. You saw him in the past, just that's all he looked for.
Yes.
So it was awesome to see. I was really happy with
that
what we saw from Boogie,
hey.
And I was like, "Ooh, Boogie might actually be able to throw something up the Hens."
Against his game because again, in the scheme of things, if you look at most of the people on the American team, their credentials are not as good as who's on the Brazilian team. But this just shows especially in no-gi, the gap is closing on grappling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a Brazilian sport anymore.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Anyway, Mason Fowler defeated Keiran Kerchak by armbar. That happened after Keiran Kerchak tried to flying armbar Mason Fowler and got pretty close to it.
He got close where I was like, is he? It's this is a match where I was like, okay, Mason Fowler, for me here, was the front runner on their American
to beat
team.
a lot of
To
the
beat a lot
guys
of the
on
guys.
team.
Because I'm like,
yes.
Mason Fowler is plus 99, ADCC, or sorry, under 99, East Coast Trials champion. Took Craig to a really tough match in ADCC, beat him in DBI overtime at SUG. Like, Mason.
Beat him in SUG.
Yeah, at SUG in overtime, which we don't really count that. But again,
twice he beat him though.
Yes, in overtime.
Well, no, he tapped him that one time.
In overtime.
Yeah, but he tapped him.
He did tap him in overtime. It doesn't count. But Mason, again, has been a guy that's been looking phenomenal as of recently. Looked great.
He just won Brasilieras.
Which is, as an American, which is some wild shit. Looking great. So Mason coming in, I was like, ooh, Mason Fowler is going to be a huge factor. So to have Keiran Gracie throw up in no-gi a flying armbar, and I was looking at the armbar, I was like, that is not a bullshit armbar. That is deep. And Fowler is legitimately like defending that hard and trying to not get submitted. He never got like out and like, oh, he's fighting it. He's taking the armbar.
No, the other arm was in the way, stopping
it. Was in,
from,
but it was like you could see Fowler go, oh, I can't fucking play anymore. And then he gets on top.
He almost got Ezekiel'd.
Then he passes through Fowler. I was like, okay, Fowler's out of danger now. He's going to impose his will now. And Fowler put his knee up, impose. And then Keiran goes, nah, bro, we're not done yet. And then throws up from the bottom, Alexei Olenek style, from the north-south, throws up a no-gi Ezekiel. And I went, that's bullshit. It's no-gi Ezekiel. It's not going to get Fowler with it.
Wrong.
And then you see Fowler, like, try to yank his head out, and Keiran comes up with him. And I went, oh, this is tight. And the commentary at that point goes, oh, shit, this is tight.
Yeah.
And then you see Fowler's hands come in, and you see that he can't get his hand beyond Keiran's, like, bicep and in the inner arm to, like, fence him out. And I was like, oh, he's just having to eat this. And with that choke, you can't really see where the hands are positioned inside.
Yeah,
it's
you
really
don't know
hard to
where
tell.
it is, so you kind of got to eat it.
But based on how it looked, I was like, this looks tight. And then when Fowler finally does get his head out, he gives Keiran and you watch the video version, he gives him that sucked. I didn't like that.
And then he armbarred him.
And then he armbars him. But it was just, it was wild because that was, again, Keiran's not a guy in ADCC. He's not a guy that we see a whole lot in the top upper echelon of no-gi with frequency.
Honestly, like anybody out there that's not from that like area of Hydra Gracie, let me know what you've seen him on, because like even then I was like,
oh yeah, I want to go see his matches now.
Like, but I want to watch it now because he was like super exciting. It's like, point out this stuff to me, not like
he's a big dude throwing a flying armbar that tight, and
dude,
you got his
just
hips up
threw
on
it
it.
up there.
And then the no-gi Ezekiel to throw it that tight, like that was impressive because Fowler's not a guy we usually see fight out of stuff like that. Like,
no, he's normally beating the shit out of you.
He's top position, beating the shit out of you. And so to see him, and he comes back in arm bars, but it was just a very interesting like turn of events that made me go. It was probably some of the most exciting pieces of the night of just me
in the first
yelling
half,
at my TV that like I didn't think he was ever going to get Fowler, but in my head, in my brain, in the back, it went, "Am I fucking happen? I never know."
Right.
So
they
exciting.
took a timeout after that because you're allowed timeouts and you can actually leave the person in and have them continue to fight, or you can sub them out, but they're still in rotation to potentially beat somebody that is in that first rotation.
Yeah.
But they subbed him out, so then we ended up with the first match.
So that is the only point that Team USA or anyone has at this point in the first round. So it's 1-0 USA Brazil. All the draws, don't care. But we have one submission victory now, which is Mason Fowler taking this armbar victory.
So he got subbed out, but he was still available. He was still in play, just didn't know when they were going to use him. Mika Galval versus Keith Krikorian. First match.
They go 3 fucking times.
They go 3
today.
times. Mika is slow on this first one. Like you can see.
He gets feeling out Krikorian a little bit, like feeling out where's his leg game going to go, where's his like how's his top
because
game?
They competed 3 different times. I don't remember what matches what it was, but
the first match was the one that was the different match. The second 2 matches looked pretty similar.
The first match and the second match looked very similar, except for Galval got to the positions better and actually finished him in the time regulation. But at one point, like, Keith goes to lean to his right. which would be Mika's left. And so Mika starts to roll with it. But as they both are up, Mika just like bats Keith's legs away and then comes forward and passes the guard.
Yeah,
and it was
the
this
camera
cool
angle
little
was perfect for that.
It was a cool little sequence. I wish I remembered which match that happened on, but just watch like all three of them and try to figure out. But he just
the first match.
swats
this
his legs
is the first
away.
match. So Kerchak goes to like almost like re-guard, and you see Micah just like turn and then just like sprawl off of both hooks around, but he doesn't sprawl like super long. He just sprawls enough to get his top knee back in front of the leg and hip line. Like I watched it a couple of times. I actually couldn't like figure out how he did it. It was
I think you're
wild.
even talking about a different sequence.
Okay.
But
one of the guard passes that he had on Kerchak,
there was a few guard passes
control.
where it was sick, but
Yeah.
there was one where they were both like seated and he knocked him away. But either way, Galvao gets an armbar like literally in the last few minutes. Keith is fighting it.
The last like few seconds.
Like, that's what I meant. Few
Yeah.
seconds. Keith is fighting it, and then like the buzzer goes off, and then you see Keith tap, and I'm like, okay, was that still in the regular? I'm not
Because
sure.
a lot.
But I think Keith was just like, hey, let go of my fucking arm. I don't want you to break it.
Yeah.
Great. So that caused like a thing, and then they watched the replay back.
And they because
with sound in real time, and they were like, it was after the buzzer. It doesn't count.
and so because that's a lot of times at events. So just as a general thing in combat sports, this is just a PSA. If you watch combat sports, the on-screen timer for the viewer is almost never synced up with the actual regulation clock.
That one was synced up.
Yeah, but I'm saying as a general FYI, never get mad as a viewer about like, oh, the time was over. Like, why? Because usually the on-screen clock is not synced up. That's why the UFC, by the way, fades it out in the last 10 seconds so that you're not going, oh, it's 2 seconds after. It's not like, no, it's the official time is different than what you see as a viewer typically. This one was really interesting, though, because the buzzer goes off, but the referee wasn't in yet. And so it's like, okay, sometimes it gets squirrely because based on your event and based on who's kind of running it, it is when buzzer happens or it is when referee stops. And this is what was the Deniz and Hulk match?
Which one?
The one where he went to sleep. Hulk went to sleep.
That wasn't.
Was it BJ Bet or was it BJ Stars?
I thought Mika choked him out.
No, different.
See, it all goes
blends
together.
So, but that was like a weird thing where the rules were a certain way, and it's like, was it referee intervention or was
I think
it
that was
time?
BJJ bet, by the way. Now
So
that I think about it.
the timer goes off, and then you see like another half second or second go by, and Kerchak taps, and they make a ruling on the field or on the mats that like, yep, that was after the time, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it doesn't count, and it's like, okay, well, the armbar was really close, so we admit that he didn't get him in regulation, so it doesn't count. Everyone's good with that. We move on. No point in this first match.
Next is Diogo Hayes versus Nick Ronan. Baby Shark versus Nick Ronan.
Yep.
Baby Shark knows how to wrestle too. He snatched some stuff up. That was pretty slick. It was a lot of just going after legs and then like
Yeah, that's really what Nick
Hayes
Ronan,
trying to be on top and Ronan trying to be on the
Nick
bottom.
Ronan really likes that big underhook scoop knee bar. Like
Yes.
that's a technique
does.
we see. You see him get to the back with it. The backside 50-50 knee bar. Like we see that pretty much whenever you see Ronan compete, given his druthers, like that is the entry that he wants to hit. He wants to backside 50-50 knee bar you because he's very long and he scoops very well with his arms and his hips. That's what he's looking for, and that's pretty much the entire tournament what he's looking for here.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Mason Fowler comes back in and goes against Fabricio Andre. Again, Fabricio Andre's wrestling looked great. Like Fowler didn't really get the better of the wrestling until the very end of it,
And he used his size to kind of be able to do so.
And
there.
Andre did some pretty slick shit to like finish some takedowns, even though they were like out of bounds and stuff like that. If you just watch the match and watch the wrestling, it was mostly on the feet. Like, there wasn't a lot to it. It ended in a draw. John Blank versus Isaki Behance. Draw. Like that's still the first round, dude.
Okay, I'm just making sure. So this is the one that got a little chippy.
No, this is not the one that got chippy. That's not until
Oh, that was
second round.
Colvin and Behance.
Yes.
Yeah, my bad.
Yes.
I would see. Coben and Blank used to play really similar games, which is like bottom game, I'm a break your leg off game.
Well, that's what happened, but John couldn't really get a bite, and the Hence just would like back up and come in, and then back up and come in,
and that's what
that's what
really
he does.
Good at distance management. You ever watch him fight? Like and
they talk about it, and that's his game. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, and it happened, but not too terribly eventful.
Moving to a draw.
Mika Galvao versus Gio Martinez. Mika Galvao, I said it earlier. I was like, I said it earlier in the group chat. I was like, pretty sure he's better than 90% of like everybody that does.
And then
jiu-jitsu.
I followed. I was like 95 plus.
Like he's so easily, good. He's so good. Like he didn't submit him.
I think this was Gio going in like, we got to take out Galvao. I am notoriously impossible almost to submit for anyone.
Almost had his arm, but still.
But I'm saying like Gio goes in and like they're gonna throw Gio Martinez because he's just notoriously such a hard stylistic match for guys to deal with. He's got a crafty guard. He's just hard for guys to deal with. Even Mikey had like a little bit of a problem in certain places versus Martinez, and Mikey's like
couldn't catch him.
The best in the world. Couldn't catch him. Martinez takes out Galvao, so they cannot put him back into rotation until later. And that's, I think, in watching this, that's what I thought the goal was for Gio.
Oh, and that whole 30 seconds on the in-between was never right. There were some times where it was like 2 minutes in between matches. Yeah. I'm like, you're giving him way too much time.
They were super strict about it the first one, and I do like, hey man, give him a little bit. Like, don't just get like, give him. Put him up there quickly, but don't make him be on the mat.
Drag on, man.
Yeah.
We then had a rematch already of Luis Paulo versus Nathan Orchard. Much of the same thing as the first match.
Well, Orchard on the bottom, looking for what he does.
Looking for stuff.
Looking for the no arm
sometimes
triangle.
Pulling him into positions that were not good.
Yep.
At all. But it wasn't, the same match as the first one essentially. Then we have Igor Tanabe versus Nick Ronan. Nick Ronan snagged a couple of things that looked really sketchy, but Tanabe got out.
Yeah.
And, again, draw. And then finally the last, 2.5 minutes, because it literally goes up to an hour. So it doesn't matter if the match is 5 minutes.
The first half of the event is an hour. The second half is an hour. And they do is period. So, if you have enough time for 2 minutes or 30 seconds of a match, they start that match with the remaining time left in the period, and then it doesn't go the full 5 minutes.
Correct. And that's what happened with Keith Krikorian and Fabricio Andre. That's ADCC implications right there. And Fabricio, from that little bit right there, it's like, that might be a rough match if they get paired up.
I was curious
early.
Also, how Krikorian's earlier match with Galvao may have affected this, because he, again, in the first match that looked like
the arm got extended. Yes,
it got extended, and Keith had to fight hard in that first match. And Fabricio, again, had a tough match earlier with Mason Fowler that was mostly on the feet, wrestling, very different phases of the match, and also very different stylistic games. And I want to read into this because it is a matchup we're probably pretty likely to see. Now we're less likely to see it because they don't usually do rematches in ADCC, but the squads format is odd enough where they might not even factor it in. You never know. But I'm curious, there's so many X factors with how that match plays out, but now that they're both in 66 at ADCC, I am curious about it.
Yeah. So on the in-between, we had a super fight between Ben Henderson and Damian Maia.
Holy shit, Damian Maia is fucking good.
I didn't expect it to go the entire time, though. I thought Ben Henderson was going to get submitted.
I thought, because we've seen Wagner Hosha submit him on Polaris.
Well, here's the thing. The fact that Ben Henderson survived for 12 plus minutes with Damian Maia on his back.
Dude, even in the post-fight interview, Damian Maia was surprised. He was
Damian Maia was like, I don't know how I didn't submit him.
Basically like, that shit was crazy. I didn't submit him. I submit everyone. And he
crushed his face. Dude. And Ben Henderson was like, shit happens.
Is so hard to tap. And the guys in WEC and UFC all talk about how hard he is to tap, all the bad spots. Again, Pettis was the only guy to do it. The triangle. But
he didn't get caught.
Damian Maia beat that ass for 17 minutes of a 20-minute match.
control for 90% of the match. The end where Henderson was starting to like come through in the last like 2 minutes, I was like, oh, hey, there you might be able to build something, but you can't because you don't have enough time.
It was 15 minutes of control by Maia, and like
at least
pretty dominant control, and I was astonished at the defensive ability of Ben Henderson. Like, as always, like every time you watch Ben Henderson, you just go like, watch this dude for defense, because he is active, he is tenacious, he turns. Like, at no point does he ever just, actually he does sometimes, like I was going to say try to statically just fight you in a place, but he will sometimes, and then he'll still win in those places, and he'll like, oh, like you could never get your hand grip across. Like, he did enough to force you down. He got his shoulders out. He turned his hip a little bit. Like, he's making all of these big and small adjustments to just prevent you from ever being able to like just like lock him down completely and like get him exactly where you want him, because he's like slippery to deal with. So the fact that Maia could control him for 16, 15, 17 minutes of a match was wild. And again,
still couldn't finish it. The amount of time that Daniel Strauss was talking about Ben Henderson's quads and the striation of his quads was fucking great.
Can't make me laugh, Josh. My ribs are fucked up.
It was great. I was like, this adds nothing to the commentary whatsoever, but please keep talking about it.
Let's go, Dan Strauss.
Because it's just like so off the beaten track, because they were like, for the most part,
one of the
on
things
point.
To say about
It's like, okay, he's still on your back, but he's like, man, have you seen those quads? And it's just, you're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Think about this. Dan Strauss at ADCC competed at 77 kilos.
Did he really?
Yep. Dan Strauss used to be tiny.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Now he's a big beefy.
Wasn't 88?
I think it was 77.
Holy shit.
He used to be tiny. It might have been 88, but I don't think it was.
Okay.
He used to be a skinny lad, and now he's a beefy boy.
Yeah, he just all his Instagram is just him lifting
fucking love it.
Odd, heavy objects.
I also like his very random like streaks of gray in his facial hair, and his love of Ben Henderson's quads.
So it was honestly a fun match. Super impressive. Like,
it was great. Good for Ben Henderson for not getting submitted.
Awesome to see Damian Maia's game on display again. Like,
I love seeing him compete. When
counter
he did
wrestling.
BJJ bet, that was awesome.
That was versus Cowboy.
If he's not doing MMA anymore, please continue.
Please, guys,
doing jiu-jitsu
give
matches.
me some Damian Maia on whatever.
I love it.
And also, like, again, Ben Henderson. I like Ben Henderson consistently competing and stuff, because
they talked about the Wagner match. They talked about the AJ Agazarm match where they threw him off the stage. Like, you know,
I love seeing it. I love seeing
it's great.
Those guys.
And again, Ben Henderson has been to 2 ADCCs as well and did well. He ran into Kron at one point.
Yep, I remember that.
And he ran into somebody else. He did, I want to say, the one in England and the one in China.
So it would be 13 and
13 and 15, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So
what's the Kron match? That was
Kron. Yeah, it's Kron.
It was Kron. Ice cream Kron, baby. So that
anyway.
was the intermission. It was a lot of fun. Again,
there was a little bit of commercial.
Fun. Yep.
Before round 2, but then round 2
started.
started.
And then Fight Pass shit the bed. We had to restart Fight Pass, and we both struggled with that for like.
Dude, Fight Pass kept freezing on me. Like, I would try to jump ahead, especially if they were in like a static position, maybe like 10, 15 seconds, and then it was like, I'm going to buffer for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah. I had to restart it once.
I had to do a lot of restarting. I actually finished watching it on my phone because it ran smoother on my phone. Round 2, Richie Martinez versus K1 Gracie. Draw. Richie looked really good in this match. He was like in charge. He got a great rubber guard position, started to bring that leg over for the omoplata position, came up on top. Like, he was in charge of that match. And it was like, again, it's refreshing to see, because
when Richie imposes and like is able to get his game off, like, this is what it looks like. But it's awesome.
I want to say he's almost 40 as well.
I think so.
Because I want to say Gio's the younger brother.
Yeah.
And I want to say Gio's like 34, 35 years old. And I remember watching Gio
I think so.
10, 12 years ago, and I was like, this guy looks old.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. But
I remember watching Boogie fight MMA.
Oh yeah,
back in his late 20s.
Yeah.
Because that was always the big thing, was that Gio went the BJJ. This is kind of off tangent. Gio went BJJ and Boogie went MMA. And then I think he had 3 or 4 fights.
He had like 4 fights. I think he lost 1.
Something like that.
And then
like California regionals. Might have been a King of the Cage fight as well. But it was always like kind of the discussion that like had Boogie gone on full-time BJJ, like how good he would have been, but he decided to go the MMA route.
No, he's 38.
Yeah, that seems about right.
He's
pushing.
born 84.
Okay. Boogie or Gio?
Boogie.
Boogie. Yeah, I think he's is it 2 or 4 years older than his brother?
If they said Boogie was,
if
they saw Gio was 34 years old, is
Gio only 34? I thought he was
34 or 35.
Okay.
He was like 87, 88, something like that. He's a tiny bit younger than I am.
It's cool to see Boogie on these events, like
it's
opening
good seeing
up and
him like
showcasing
doing his shit.
Yeah.
Because it's like I remember like when he was blowing up on the scene, and I was like, this guy's like really good, and he was doing a lot of
super
attacking.
unorthodox.
Yeah,
for
that's
that
the other
size,
thing.
he was one of the only guys that was up at like 185, 200 that had that level of flexibility. Could like go plata guys.
77 kilos he's fought at.
But like
he fought at 170.
yeah, but he was never like he cut down to 170, like 80, 90.
He was low still, but the thing is like
Yeah.
he is awkwardly long for that weight.
Dude, he's super
He's
tall.
like Kyle Chambers, like
Yeah.
super long. Although Chambers is like a solid 200 pounds now. I remember when
was
like
like
Chambers was like
60, 180.
was smaller.
Yeah.
When he started blowing up because that Instagram clip because of that Imanari heel hook.
That was Castell.
That was
Different.
also
different
awkward.
planet. Yeah.
Different 10th Planet guy. No, because
He had one too. Yeah, he had one too.
he did one too. Yeah.
Moving on, because we're getting off
But
tangent.
Castell did have the viral one.
Yeah,
That
he had
is
the
correct,
viral one
yeah.
on Fight to Win. So, again, great to see Richie. Goes to a draw.
Yes.
Next match, we have...
Luis Paulo versus John Blank.
Yep.
Draw. Same kind of stuff.
and it's really like Thor looking for the legs. This was like a little less activity from Thor than we've seen. We saw him at Grapple Fest a couple weeks ago, like play a heavier wrestling game, like heavier, like imposing game. And it was a little less of that here. And I'm just
I
curious.
want to think he probably went to the stuff that he was far more comfortable with because of the potential of who he had to go against.
Yeah, and I
Which
think
is smart. Like, go with your A game
and he
against...
also you have ADCC coming up. He's just getting off that knee injury, and I'm curious, like how much.
Is he on ADCC?
4th place, so he got the invite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool, sick.
88. Yep. So I'm just curious. I'm curious again, guys that are getting closer to ADCC, how much, because we've seen about it for years, guys playing a different game leading up to ADCC.
That
Like,
could also just throw people off.
and
And
there's-
they're like, this is what he's going to do, and then
Well,
you do
because there's a
something
lot of
different.
people that have like Keenan's talked about it. Val talked like guys over the years have talked about like doing that where it's like, oh yeah, 5 months before ADCC, I stopped playing my ADCC on TV on events in public. Like I
That's
was
what Keenan
only
said against Keiran.
Keiran
Yeah,
in 2017,
Where it was like he didn't play any foot game at all, and then as soon as it got to it,
heel hooked him.
He heel hooked him, and he was like,
because he hadn't thrown a heel hook at him in training in like a year or something like that because they thought they were going to be in ADCC together, and then he did it, and I was like, ooh, but that is one of the biggest things. But we've also heard guys talk about it. And I'm curious to see if that's something that John was kind of doing here, where it's like, I'm close enough. I've been off for injury. Guys don't have like 8 months or a year of footage on me now. So I'm going to be another X factor. And that's kind of what he did at 88 last time. So I'm curious if that's sort of why we had this type of performance out of John.
Maybe.
Or, it was a stylistic thing.
Moving on, Baby Shark versus Nathan Orchard. Draw.
Yep.
Good showing from both of those guys. Both of them had good positional points in the match, but draw. Hunter Colvin versus Marcelo Falsto, draw. Again, not a whole lot of going on.
Yeah.
Then the
pacing for the second half changed a little bit.
It did because again, everybody from Brazil started playing guard. Micah Galvao defeating Keith Krikorian by armbar. So it was the same exact thing as the first match, except for he got to that armbar position a little bit sooner and got it, and I thought he broke Keith's arm.
Yeah, it was tight. So he walked
good.
up to high mount, he turns over, he gets the arm. Keith again tries to get up to defend.
He's so good at just like keeping the people there, even when both legs aren't in front of the face, like that triangle over top of the arm.
Yeah.
He's super good at just like holding that.
He has a good feeling for your balance on the bottom in an interesting way. Like he does a really great job of like holding you in place with his legs, but also balancing you in place against where you're going to move, and like anticipating where you're going to move and moving against you and then away from you. And again, guys at the top level kind of all do that, but he does it in a way at like, I'm not saying like a speed, or there's something different. I haven't put my finger on exactly what it is yet. He does something a little different with the way that he controls people positioning like this.
I'll tell you what it is.
What is it?
Right now. You ready?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Maybe that's what it is.
He really just doesn't fucking care if he loses the position, because he's just like, I'm going to just go for something else then.
I'm going to get it. Yeah.
He just doesn't fucking care.
It's so
you
wild.
See it, you see other people and they like care where they end up falling. He doesn't. And I think that's a big thing. He's just like, whatever, if I lose it, I'm just going to go to something else and try to break your shit there.
It's so weird because most guys that play that type of game can never kind of rise to the level that Micah has. And it's interesting because we've seen plenty of guys that like, I don't care, wherever I end up, and they do that, but they can get beat positionally. But like, guys aren't really beating him positionally, so he ends up wherever.
Perfect weight.
Yeah.
Where he's strong and flexible.
And
so
fast.
He has this weird, he has a weird game that he plays in general. If you watch it, it's like, you don't see lighter guys really go for close guard. He plays close guard all the time, and he does really well at it. But then he also can easily transition into like the Berimbolo game, the inversion game, all those other things. And it just goes from point A to point B, and it's just all like seamless. It's like, where did this kid come from? And why is he so good?
Beating black belts as a blue belt. That's why.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like a lot of these guys, they're training together too. Like they're all, you hear when they announced the teams, it was like training at a fight sports club. It's like, oh, okay, Micah Galval training at a fight sports club. Diogo Hayes training at a fight sports club.
Yeah.
Fabricio Andre. It's like, that's a killer's row of like guys that are from like 175 to like 120, because Diogo Hayes is tiny.
I think he's 120. I think he's
he's a rooster weight.
Oh, hey, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I had the wrong guy in my head.
The baby shark. He's a rooster weight. But that's what it is. He just don't give a fuck. And he submitted Keith.
So now,
and now they've again
1-1, baby. Second half, we're tied up.
They pulled a timeout. They pulled Micah out. Mason Fowler versus Igor Tanabe, draw. Then Galval goes right back in afterwards. Takes on Nick Ronan, draw. Fabricio Andre versus Gio Martinez, draw. Is Gio in ADCC?
Under 66.
So is Fabricio. There's another match from ADCC that they can't really line up.
Yeah.
Fabricio on just ADCC rules, if you did it as a whole match, would have won on points.
Big announcement this week for ADCC. Tonin at 66.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I forgot. That'll be another. We talked about that. Honestly,
I don't think that's like a huge announcement in the sense of like he's just not doing 77. He's not cutting.
I think Tonin. Well, I mean, that's a decent cut for Tonin.
He fights at 45.
He fights at 55 and won.
He fights at 45. He fights at featherweight.
But one, they bumped up all the weight class with weight cutting stuff. So he's technically weighing in at 55 for that. I think, again, we talked about it initially in the team chat that it was like, oh, it's going to be a big cut for him. And I was like, I immediately walked it back. I was like, yeah, he can make 45. He's going to be uncomfortable doing that. But he's a little bigger than me.
It's like 149, right?
It's 145. 66, 2.2 times 66 is 145.
145.2.
Yeah, 2. So it's a tough cut. I think he's easily top 4 in that, based on like who's not, like 77 is a monstrous division.
They talked about that and they were like, what's your decision? And in my head, I immediately went Rotolo. That's
77 though. Cade is at 77.
Okay. And like you're going to run into a Rotolo either way at 77 or 88. So that's why he went down to 66.
So I think it's interesting. The dynamics of 66 are super. There's a lot of guys that are monsters, but there's a lot of guys that have had like win-loss, like there are significant strategies to beat them. At 77, there's a lot of guys that like, we don't really have a good way to, like JT Torres and Cade Rotolo. Like, we don't really have a good way to like consistent way to beat you or deal with your game.
I think a lot of that is going to come down to, at 66, is going to come down to wrestling.
Yeah.
And from what I saw with Fabricio Andre, his wrestling has increased. So that
We saw that in Brazilian trials.
that scrambly stuff that Gary normally does might not work out to his benefit in those type of matches. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Again,
I'm
like,
curious.
all of this stuff is like leading up, and we can speculate all we want, but we don't know anything that's going on. And
No.
Gary could just be like, look, I'm not taking one of the spots from one of my teammates at 77.
Yeah,
He's
or
like, I'll
former
fight
teammates.
everybody.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. That's, that
That
was a bummer of a loss for him, for sure. He was probably like, oh, this sucks. That, like, because everybody's seen a Gary match where he'll get put into a bad position.
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm out. And that didn't happen.
for the Gordon Ryan match. Yeah. It's interesting. I think it is out of fold. This is, again, probably not a match that we're going to see Gio Martinez, Fabricio Andre in round 1 or 2 of ADCC
Maybe.
finals as a result, because ADCC typically does not like to do rematches unless it is in the finals. So with the bracketing, they try to bracket that. These guys will probably be on opposite sides of the bracket after this match, just as a piece of information if you're listening to the show.
We'll see. This is the match that got chippy. Izaki Behance versus Hunter Colvin.
Chippy, yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah, they got chippy.
Well, you said chippy, so
I said
just
chippy.
followed up.
I think
Colvin was heavy on the tie-ups. Like he
They
was,
both
he
were a
was
little bit.
chopping.
Yeah.
Heavy. Behance was just trying to keep up with it, and then like Colvin really whacked him good, and Behance looked at the ref and was like, "Yo, what's up?" And the ref was like, "What?" And so he looked back up at Colvin. He was like, "Cool," and they fist bumped, and then like he palmed him, and then he headbutt him, and then he chopped at him, and then the ref was like, "Yo, you can't do that." And he was like, "You just let him like punch me in the head," so I was just doing the same thing back.
And they fist bumped again.
But Colvin came right back to him and was like, "Cool, yeah, let's have this kind of match."
Dude, Colvin, because that's the kind of match Colvin fights at 85. Like, Colvin is a guy that's very happy to punch you or punch you. Like, Colvin's a tough dude, and like
was cool
with
that
his
it
MMA
happened.
background, he just doesn't. We've seen him in a bunch of matches like that where guys like they hit him or something, and he just goes, "All right," and like he is one of the few guys that doesn't seem to get like he will do that match to you, but does not get bothered when you do it to him.
Yeah,
It
he
is
was just like
it is
he came back
very-
and was like, "Cool, whatever."
Yeah, it's just very funny because most guys like get a little frustrated when someone hits them. So Colvin's a guy that just doesn't really care about that, and I appreciate that. Minor tech issue because I have a raised up keyboard and stopped the recording.
punched it.
I punched the keyboard and
punched it into
stopped
the
the
keyboard.
recording. So we're back. I do appreciate that because Colvin has those matches. And you're just like, okay, we're doing this. Like, doesn't get bothered by it, and Behance like headbutts him in the face, and then he's just not bothered by it.
He's just like, "All right."
And they're like,
cool,
okay,
let's
we're
get
having
going."
this kind of match. Cool.
And then it was a draw.
Yep. And then it was a draw.
So Luis Paulo takes on John Blank. He does the shaky finger thing and says the footlocks don't bother me. John Blank was like, I think they do, but whatever. Went to a draw.
Yeah.
Marcelo Fausto versus Nick Ronan went to a draw.
Yep, really similar match. Ronan's underneath looking for that, backside 50-50 knee bar.
He got thrown into a couple of them, and Fausto was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, was this the match with the stall? Was that an earlier Nick Ronan match?
I was earlier Nick Ronan.
Okay, yeah, I missed which one that was. They actually, it was like 3 minutes of the
was
closed
early.
guard, and then they were like, you gotta move. And they was like, okay, we'll move.
Then we have Mika Galval versus Keith Krikorian again for the third time. How demoralizing is this? Right?
I like
So,
Keith. And it sucks to
Keith
see him
got
like
armbarred, but after regulation, and then he gets submitted, and then you're like, all right, let's go. And I don't know if they were like, we think Keith is going to go up. Mika, go up again.
I don't know. I see. This is where I was kind of confused, and this is where I wish there would have been a little more information about, like, at least at this point in the broadcast, like, reiterate how the picks are made or how they choose. Like, I wish the commentary would have expanded upon that a little bit.
Everybody was out. So by the time, because he had won and they had taken out more people, they had swapped out, like, they have to wear those goofy little jerseys that say they're no longer, like, able to participate.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, after I think they planned this out this way, they were like, all right, we're going to have Mika go early again from earlier, right after the Mason match. And we'll get him in again pretty quickly if we start hitting draws. And they hit a bunch of draws.
Which is probably in the front what you're going to do.
And they got to the point to where they were like, cool, we know where we are. One of two matches is about to happen. Krikorian or Fowler.
Right.
And they were like, Miko, you're like the last guy in that's eligible. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
They were like, screw it, go. And they threw in Krikorian. It's like, Krikorian was just like, it was almost the same thing again.
Yeah.
But then it was a transition to that triangle.
Well, really, it was the almost exact same kind of passing and mounting sequence. Michael, you saw him in the second match go to that high mount, like trapping, like really high mount, trapping both of Krikorian's arms like above him. And Krikorian did a great job like keeping his elbows as into him as he could. But then Micah had figured out, like, cool, I've already been here with you, like, for 4 or 5 minutes at this point, twice, and I've figured out, like, the sequence that is working on you right now, and you haven't, like, yeah, Gio and Boogie are his coaches, but, like, they probably haven't been talking about, like, how to go and, like, workshop this match to, like, make any changes about this, and then you go up again.
It kind of doesn't matter because while they're separated by one weight class ADCC-wise, like, they were saying that Galvao weighed in around like 81, 82 kilos, which is like 170 something. And Keith is like,
he will go
easily
up,
at
but
66 kilos.
He's a 55er. Like, Keith is a 55er. They will cut to make 45. It's a decent cut for him, but like,
but there's still like a easy 20-pound weight difference between the two of them.
Yes.
So,
and these guys typically, unless they're meeting an absolute, don't meet in a lot of brackets because Micah's usually going up to like 185. And then Keith is usually going to 55 or 45.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't usually go up to 170. So it's like a weird. I do definitely think that weight probably played a factor in this, but this is a match where you're probably not likely to see outside of an absolute ever again because these guys just don't operate in the same brackets.
Correct.
Same mounting sequence over. Mika goes to a triangle instead of to the armbar, which I think is good. He kind of looped under. He likes to do that triangle. It's kind of the same entry he did.
He set it up, and then what was funny was like you see him, like they're like, "Oh, maybe you do that," and he's just like, "I'm just gonna slowly readjust and then squeeze the shit out of him."
Yeah,
and that's what he did. Mm-hmm. But that also leaves the ability to leave him in, which he did, and they were like, "All right, Mika versus Mason Fowler for the last 3 minutes that we have in this half."
And now they're up essentially with 3 minutes left. You're up 2-1 on USA. Mason Fowler has to get something going. You have to sub him. You have to defend for a couple minutes. Galvao is like one of the best in the world. Good luck, even with the weight advantage like the Fowler had. Good luck subbing him in. Good luck subbing him in 10 minutes. Better yet, 3 minutes where he knows like, oh, we win if I just don't get submitted. Awesome.
Even though he's gonna try to submit him.
He's gonna try to submit you, but like he throws so much offense at you. It's like you have to deal with that while trying to like come back from yourself. And so Team USA was unable to do it. That match goes to a draw, and we get 2-1 Brazil.
They are now the Polaris squad's champions.
Yep. It was a fun event. It was a long event. I think
there needs to be some tweaking to it.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think they need to tweak some stuff. I don't really want to kind of put forth like what I think should get tweaked because I don't know.
I don't know yet
interesting format, but there needs to be a tweak because it is a lot of draws in a row are really hard to watch. And it's really hard to assign stakes to a match when I'm not sure kind of what the goal of the match is. Because like only submissions.
I think the halves should be shortened to 45 minutes if they're going to keep it at 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you're keeping it at 5 minutes, that still gives you time if you're doing a whole 5 minutes, right? So 45 minutes is what? It's 9 matches.
Yeah. I also think the team should be smaller. I think that would help a little bit.
Maybe. I think it's fine where there's 8 people on the team where it's like half or one weight and half or the other.
For me, it makes it hard. As a viewer, it makes it hard to follow because I'm following essentially 16 different people that are in and out, in and out, in and out. And like we cover this every week. We know all the guys. I think probably from an outside observer, it's really hard to keep track of an entire. Again, this is me as a grappling guy, not as a sports guy, where plenty of people can list the entire roster of every sport.
How many people legitimately watch this, though? Because you also have to think that it's on Fight Pass. And, like, I would love... Statistically, I like watching, like, seeing numbers when it comes to how many people watch it. I would love if, like, I could get a hold of Flo's numbers and, like, oh, this event did this.
Everyone would love that.
I would love
because even
that.
The broadcasters don't have that.
So it's like the same thing when they do this or they do the other grappling thing Fight Pass,
EDI or Fury or
any of that
Quintet,
stuff.
any of those run of
Like
run
I
on
would
Fight Pass.
love to see
the viewership
and like, okay, we see like X amount of people watch this. It's like, all right, now let's compare it to another event where, Y amount watch this. What's the difference? Like, how do we
be able to crunch the numbers for what works for marketing, works for rule set, works for teaming.
I'm a stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not even a numbers guy.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff I like to see when it comes to like, okay, well, if this is happening, how do we increase viewership?
Right.
Do we do less talky bullshit on commentary? Do we do less stupid rules or more stupid rules or whatever?
More meme fights or more like
exactly.
I don't know, and we've talked to a lot of promoters over the years, kind of behind the scenes for what works a little bit. But I think for this, a little bit of a shorter half. And maybe a 6-minute match. I think a little bit longer on the match is something that I would like to see.
I would like to see a game of rock, paper, scissors as to decide who's the actual winner, but you only get 0.1 point for that.
I would like honestly to see. I kind of want to see a decision criteria as well.
But then you're letting people judge.
or draw or decision. Like you can have a draw. But if it's clear that someone wins based on like your submission criteria, and you're like, hey, that's
like half a point.
Yeah,
if you win by decision, you get half a point.
But also like you can have a draw. Like they can determine a draw, but it's like the window for draw is here, and if you blow the dude out in those 10% on either side, you get a half a point. You get like some sort of reward for that. Then it makes it possible that like the matches have more scissors ability where it's like, you're not going to sub this guy. I get that. But it still makes you go in and have to impose the entire match.
Go and beat the shit out of that guy.
Right. And then it gives it, for me, you're rewarded at the end of that with a point total. And then we can have 6-4 or 6-2 or like something to see versus a whole card of draws where it's like
3 submissions.
Where it's like from one guy. And I appreciate like the thought. It's just for me, it's very, very hard to watch a whole card of draws and then be able to like take tangibles about like how that ran, because a draw looks like a draw, which means everything was even, and that just doesn't reflect really what happened and kind of the great moments that happened in the match because they just go to draw. So
sorry, I was doing the math, and like just in the second half alone. Out of the 13 matches in the second half, there was 2 submissions. It's 15% submission rate. Yeah. So it's just like
in the second half, and then in the first half you have a similar time. So you have
go up really quick. Let me see how many matches there were. Really quick.
Yeah, wrong mouse.
Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. So we have 13 and 13.
So 26 matches, you have 2 subs.
26 matches, you have 3 subs.
Well, you have 2 because it was not in regulation.
No. There was Fowler.
Oh yeah, Fowler the Armbar. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So
2 subs for Team Brazil. So it's again, I just think that I would like to see maybe some more points because higher scoring is fun. You got a 11.5, 12% submission rate rounding up.
That's not like, to me, as a viewer of just wanting to see submissions, that's not exciting. As a viewer of jiu-jitsu in general, like a lot of the stuff that happened was cool. There was a lot of cool like takedown sequences, cool sweeps and transitions and reversals. Great. But if you're like not super dorky into jiu-jitsu,
right.
Which, I mean, if you're into jiu-jitsu, you kind of are like dorky about jiu-jitsu. Yeah. But if you're not like us,
yeah,
where it's just like you're really watching everything, like really getting into it, it's just like that's not exciting. And
it's hard to affix a story to a draw.
Yeah.
And I just think that there are some great moments in here that I could definitely go like, yeah, I'm happy to give the guy the win there on that because he did so much in there. Or okay, I'm happy that these matches were draws, but I think that some of these matches, like, I would have been very happy. That was a pretty clear-cut decision. Like, I'd be good with that. And then, oh man, they won the decision. You can have guys win through the decision because I think that the submission is great. But when you have higher level guys, we've seen events very frequently that like you just don't, like, high level guys just don't get submitted very often. And again, Galvao is 25, 30 pounds bigger than Keiran to see it happen. Fowler is one of the best dudes in the world at under 99 to have it happen. It's just like you have to have a mismatch.
There's all that in between. Yeah.
Yeah, you have all the matches that kind of weren't as mismatched. There were draws, and there were some great moments in there that it's just hard to talk through. So that's my only thoughts. Kind of a rambling end and outro there for the thoughts, but again, I like the squads format. I like that they're doing it. I would like to see them continue to tweak it, moving forward.
Yes.
So that does it. This next week, moving on to previews. We're not really going to preview American Nationals because we don't. It's kind of a minor event. It's a semi-major. They're trying to make it a major. We may talk about some matches for it next week. We have some other events that we don't really have preview information for next week. We will cover one of those this coming following week. We are moving kind of into the potentially a short week next week, and then we'll move into the preview for who's number one. Gordon Ryan versus Pedro Mourinho, which I am very excited for. That should be a fun card. What you got?
We got some matches for Raw Grappling.
Oh, we do finally.
Bianca Basilio versus Fionn Davies.
The
That's
rematch.
Gonna be a slapper.
It's gonna be fire.
Diego Pato Oliveira versus Ethan Krellinston. Gabriel Souza versus Ash Williams, and Lucas Hulk Barbosa versus Thomas Bracker.
So moving to the preview of Raw Grappling 2, taking place on Flow Grappling, happening July 3rd, day before Independence Day here in America. So I might have that off, actually. Hell yeah, we might get together.
Monday is my normal day off.
So Josh, we might get together and have a have a little grappling rerun
or
fun.
I'll be at the pool.
Well, turn that down. Let's talk about the matches.
Oh, well, fine then.
Because that's the only one. The other one doesn't have matches yet.
Are you sure?
I'm
Because
positive.
we're going to look after this.
I'm positive. So, Bianca Basilio versus Fionn Davies. Josh, you remember how the last one went?
Didn't be a beater.
I
can't remember.
Not Bia beater, but not Bianca. I don't remember if Bianca beat her.
Bianca and Bia, like, they're all... I know...
Bia Mesquita and Bianca Basilio.
Yeah, but Bia Basilio. You hear her...
I know, and that's why it confuses the shit out of me every time, Josh. This will be a fun one. Again, with Fionn's recent performance at Worlds...
Is it gi or no gi?
It's a super fight. It's obviously no gi. They don't do gi super fights anymore. Especially
Stop
both
crushing
of
my
them.
dreams.
Both of them are going to ADCC. Absolutely going to be a no gi super
Stop crushing
fight.
my dreams. I hope it's in the gi.
So this will be fun. Again, I'm
gonna go Fionn.
You're gonna go Fionn?
She's looking good.
She's looking phenomenal, especially after that win for Worlds. I could see it. Yeah, maybe Fionn again. I think Fionn takes this one.
Then we have Diego Pato versus Ethan Krellinston.
This is a tough match for Krellinston.
Krellinston is the other person that kind of looks like SpongeBob, other than Edwin Najmi. His upper body is
that
is
a throwback that no one is going to get.
Plenty of people will get that. They'll understand.
Okay.
Look at Edwin Najmi, looks like SpongeBob. So does Ethan Krellinston.
Yep.
His just upper body is so fucking big in comparison.
Yeah.
But I mean, he looked great at CJJ.
Yeah, winning that title, having to fight your teammate. Oh, another teammate fight. Last week, a couple weeks ago on CJJ, we had Orchard and Keith Krikorian go against each other. And there was some controversy in that match. I think it was really funny to have Krikorian and Orchard on the same team so shortly after that controversial match. Because there was maybe an illegal slam that happened in that match that might have gotten Orchard out of a position that Krikorian was on his back, and then he was able to then no-arm triangle him later. It was very interesting. I thought it was very funny to have two guys that had that kind of controversial match immediately on the same team again. But
I'm going to go Krellinston on that one.
I'm going to go Pato on this one. I think that I think Krellinston has an amazing leg lock game and has, really tightened up a lot of things since ADCC and his run at Trials a couple of years ago. But I think that Pato's just on that like next level after Trials, and like his wrestling game was just on display. And I just think that he is able to impose a top game on Ethan. I think Ethan will be happy to go to his feet, Ethan will be happier to go to his back. And I think that Pato can impose a top game. Or if Ethan can out wrestle Pato, I think Pato's guard is just almost bulletproof at the lower weight classes.
Fair enough. Gabriel Souza versus Ash Williams. Souza.
I'm going to go Souza too.
Ash Williams has gotten some wins.
Looked really good. Again, the Krikorian match at Grapple Fest was very, very close. And his European Trials victory, he looked amazing in that.
Beat which Meow did he beat? Although that was kind of
Paula.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Souza.
I'm going to go with Souza as well. Just because there are very few things I bet against Souza for nowadays. Again, this is Nogi as well.
Did beat Mikey.
And that's sort of why I'm going Souza for most of the stuff. Like, you beat Mikey, I'm gonna pick you until you give me a solid reason not to. I'm gonna keep picking you. That's my thought.
Lastly, what we have in front of us, Lucas Hulk Barbosa versus Thomas Breaker.
I'm not super familiar with Breaker.
I'm not either, so it's easy to go Hulk.
Yep. But again, I love being surprised. Could see Breaker surprise us. So that is Raw Grappling number 2.
Man, what have you been eating, man?
I had an entire Qdoba bowl before we recorded.
Oof.
Because I made good decisions and I tore my ribs on Friday, and so I'm a sadness eating now. I'm gonna put on like 3 to 4 pounds and go. I gotta stop now.
Oh, I'm gonna put on 3 to 4 pounds. Man, shut up.
It's gonna be good. Oh, we have entries now.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? We got some matches.
All right, so an Honor Submission Challenge 3 also happening on July 3rd. We have some preliminary card matches. We have a 70-kilogram match. We have 3 matches, 3 15-minute. We have 3 people in that. We have Fabricio Andre, Jack Sear, and Alessio Sanchetti in that. We also have a super fight with Luis Paulo versus Liam Alpan, which is a 15-minute match. In our 77-kilogram bracket, we have Michael Galvao, Jed Hugh, Jack Tilley, and Omar. Can you give me his name? I'm looking behind myself now.
Emanoli.
Can you drag it over there?
Can I drag it over there? I most certainly can.
I love it, Josh. Perfect.
Boom.
That actually doesn't help at all. I moved it like 3 inches to the left.
Oh, boo-hoo.
I'm going to go Michael Galvao on this one.
Oh, you don't say.
I'm going to go anything he's in. And then in the plus 99 kilogram division, we have Felipe Pena, Wagner Hosha, Manuel Pistado, and Cristiano
Troisi.
I'm going to go Pena. You think Wagner beats Pena?
Pena's probably even more juiced than he was at Worlds.
Hey, Pop for Worlds too. Did we talk about it in the show?
I think you did.
I think we did.
Pretty sure you did. I'm pretty sure it was you and Miranda talking about it.
Yeah, but again, it's ADCC's coming up. They don't care. Do it, baby. I want to see it. Wagner's moving up, not to 99 though. Is he
88?
I think he's at 88 now.
Smart.
So Pena's up 2 weight classes. I'm gonna go Pena here. It's just on like it's Felipe Pena.
Safe bet.
But again, I don't know how this format's gonna go, but I'm very excited about the matches we have. That thing about it being a slow week next week is wrong as shit, Josh.
See, you were like, we don't have any things, and
I
look
checked.
at that.
I checked
Entries.
earlier, and we didn't, and now we do.
All you got to do is just wait until an absurd time to check, and then they bring them up.
Yeah,
they do this on purpose. They're trying to keep us down. The man is.
So that is next week's matches, Josh. It'll be very, very fun. I'll probably have a little barbecue at the house, get together and watch some jiu-jitsu with the friends.
Well, this is technically Sunday.
It is.
That this runs, so there's a potential for it not to be on Monday. I work that Sunday. I might come over later. I don't know.
I'll have you over, Josh.
That's the 3rd, not the 4th.
My phone died. Nice.
Stop playing video games on your phone.
So that does it. Josh, you got anything fun planned for the week?
Work, training.
Yeah. Same with
trying
me.
not to hurt myself.
I'm gonna heal my ribs up, and then
I'm gonna heal my ribs up, but I'm gonna train this week.
I can't. I'm probably not gonna train this week. I'm probably gonna actually be a smart man as I get older, and like I'm gonna.
As I get older, are you even 30 yet?
31. I had back surgery at 29.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
I thought you were still in your 20s.
Nah.
You're old as fuck now.
I am. Wait. Okay, never mind. I didn't know. I got married. I got confused.
You got married last year.
Yeah, I was like 20 or 30.
I was there.
I know. You were there. You did the thing with the speaking.
30.
And I very much appreciated it. So, all right, Josh. I got nothing else. As always on the Grappling Rewind, I'm your host, Maine. My co-host,
Josh.
And we have the Grappling Rewind. Just stay on the mat, whatever it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.